Hello students, in today's that is in this video lecturing we will move into the eighth chapter under module 3, that is co-sequential processing and the sorting of large files. Co-sequential operations involve the coordinated processing of two or more sequential lists to produce a single output list. That is, you are going to process two or more lists and get one output list. But what type of processing and what type of processing you can combine to get this output list? That is, this co-sequential operations is useful for merging of items on the two list and for matching two list. Merging means usually find the union of two lists, isn't it? And matching means you are going to find the intersection. That means the names which are there in both the list. In merging, what you are doing, you will output all the names in both the list, but no duplicate names. Okay, all the names you are going to output in the list. That is what you are doing, merging and matching. Okay, these types of operations are extremely useful in file processing. What and all we will discuss in this particular chapter. Part 1, we will be discussing about development of a general model for doing co-sequential operations. Then we will discuss about the illustration of this models used for simple matching and merging operations, and then we will apply, that is the application of this model to a more complex general ledger program. Okay, and in part 2 we will discuss about multi-way merging, that is merging of n number of lists, and external sort merge. Okay, here is an example given for matching two lists. Here you have two lists, and these two lists here are sorted. It is already sorted. On this sorted list, you have to perform the matching and merging. Initially, we will discuss about the simple matching, how to perform, and then we will discuss about merging. Okay, matching means from this simple this example, simple matching means you will check in list one. You have if in you will check in list one a name, and then whatever in the list 2, if that particular name is there, then you have to send it to the output list. For example, in list 1 you have Adams, in list 2 you are searching if you have Adams. Yes, it is there, you are going to output Adam. Again, in list 1 you have the second name Carter, you are going to check in the list 2, where is Carter, uh, Anderson, Andrews, Beck, Burns, Carter. Okay, there is Carter, so you will output Carter. Next, in the list 1 you have Chin, but it is not there in list 2, so you will not output Chin for matching. In matching process you are not going to output Chin there. Okay, and so on. We'll see. A model for implementing co-sequential processes, that is the matching. Matching names in two list matters to consideration. What it all matters we have to consider when we want to match the names in two list. First thing is initializing. That means, see, first you have to sort the list in ascending order. Okay, getting and accessing the next list item, that is nothing but we need simple methods to do so. That is how to select the items from list 1 or list 2, and the next item from list 1 or list 2, that comparison. Okay, next is synchronizing, that is the progress of access in the list should be coordinated so that no matches miss. That is, you have to coordinate the progress in both the list, that is synchronizing. Okay, some method, you need some method to coordinate this process. Okay, next is handling end of file conditions, that is where to end the matching process, where we have to stop that particular process. Next is recognizing errors, that is some duplicate names if you want to identify, or names out of a sequence, those things comes under recognizing errors. Okay, next is synchronization, a method to synchronize the matching process. How? Let item 1 be the current item from list 1. From the list 1, we are taking item 1, and item 2 be the current item from list 2. In that case, what are the rules we have to apply for matching? Okay, if item 1 is less than item 2, get the next item from list 1. Okay, that is which item is less, from that you have to get the next item. Else if item 1 is greater than item 2, get the next item from list 2. Or if item 1 is equal to item 2, then you have to output the item and get the next items from the 2 list. Remember these 3 rules. Okay, talking about these 3 rules in this particular example, if I say the current item 1 is Adams, that is from list 1, you have to select the current item. Okay, and current item 2 is which one? From the list 2, Adams. Okay, what condition holds good here? Item 1 is less than item 2? No. Item 1 is greater than item 2? No. Item 1 is equal to item 2. When item 1 is equal to item 2, what you have to do? You have to progress in both the list, isn't it? You have to get the next item from both the list. That is, you have to advance to Carter in list 1, and you have to advance to Anderson in list 2, as well as you have to output item 1, that is Adams, to the output list. That means it is a match, isn't it? So you are going to output. Again, if I say the current item from list 1, now it is Carter. Okay, and the current item from list 2 is Anderson. When that is the case, you are checking if Carter is less than Anderson. No. If it is greater than Anderson, yes, right? When Carter, that is item 1 is greater than item 2, what you have to do? You have to see, get the next item from list 2. That is, you have to read from the next item, you have to read from list 2. What is the next item in list 2? That is Andrews. Okay, and similar way you are going to compare Carter and Andrews now, and then go on processing. Next is a co-sequential match procedure. In match of list 1, list 2, and you have an output list. Into more items, that is to check the condition, you need this variable. Initialize the input and output list, that initialize list 1, initialize the list 2, and one output list. Output list means the merged, no, matching items, you have to output it into that particular list, result of merging. Understood, right? Okay. Next, more items is equal to, in case of matching, this more items is equal to next item in list 1 and next item in list 2. That means, see to the operator which you are using in this matching procedure. It is a AND operator there. Okay. In matching, always we use this AND operator. That means, see, when if you have to perform a match, you should have items in both the list. Understood? That is one item from the list 1 and one more item from list 2. It has to be there, then only you can process. Okay, for matching. While of more items, that means while that condition is while you have items from both the list, you are checking for the conditions, what we saw in the synchronization. Same thing you are doing. If item 1, that is an item from list 1, first item from list 1, if I say, okay, is less than item 2. Item 2 means an item from which one? List 2 there. Okay, see here, item 1 is from list 1, item 2 is from list 2 there. Okay, if item 1 is less than item 2, then you have to move in which one? List 1, isn't it? That is, you have to select the next item in list 1. So you are sending this next item in list 1 to more items there. Okay, else if item 1 is double equal to item 2, then what you are doing? In our example, item 1, if it is atoms, and then from the list, second list, if you have atoms, and if it matches, then what you have to do? You have to output this atoms name to the output list, isn't it? That is what you are doing. You are going, you process item of 1, that is send the item 1 to the output list, and then this is the method which does it. Okay, process item 1, and what you have to do? You have to advance in both the list, that is the next item you have to select from list 1 as well as list 2. Next item in list 1 and next item in list 2, that you are sending it to more items, that is to check the truth value. Okay, else means which condition will hold good here? That is item 1 is greater than item 2. In that case, what you have to do? You have to advance in the list 2. Item 2 is lesser, isn't it? So move forward in list 2. Okay, and when to finish this condition? When either any one of the list ends at that particular moment, you have to stop the matching process. Okay, next is general class for co-sequential processing. This matching process comes under the co-sequential processing. We'll create a template class for this co-sequential process, which will have the initialize list, that is the initial, you are going to initialize the list which you want to process, and then initialize the output, then next item in list to check get the next item in the list, then item, then process item, that is to send it to the output list, then where finish up of, that is to complete the processing, what you have to, what check you have to do. And for two-way co-sequential match method, we use match to list of, and both the list 1, list 2 along with the output list. Okay, a general class for co-sequential processing. Int main of string list process of 2, that is when you want to process with the 2 list, we use the list process of 2. Else you have more number of lists, give 4 or 5. In that case, that is KV merging, different this one under co-sequential processing itself. Here for processing the two list, and match to list of both the list, and match.text is your output list. This is a full implementation of the code, full code. You can see it in your textbook, last pages of your textbook, you can go through it. Next is merging to list. Just now we discussed simple matching of the two list, isn't it? How did we do that? We processed, that is through both the list until where one of the list ends. Until then you went on processing, okay, and you found the intersection of both the list, that is matching operation. Based this merging of two list is based on the matching operation, but what difference is it from the matching operation is that must read each of the list completely, okay. In merging you have to read both the list completely, but in matching how did you do that? If one of the list ends, then you will end the matching process there itself, isn't it? Here you have to continue with the other list, okay. And one more change is must change more items behavior, that is keep this flag set to true as long as there are records in either list. That means in either of the list if there is records, then you have to move on. That means you can use or operation instead of and operation, understood, right? You can use or operation instead of and operation. For merging you use or operation, and for matching you use the and operation, okay. Next, high value, the special value we use, that is to identify the end of the list. You can use this high value FF. Next is merging to list. Co-sequential merge procedure based on a single loop. This method has been added to class co-sequential process. Okay, same like your match process added to co-sequential process. This merging is also added to the co-sequential process. No modifications are required to class string list process. That is the main class. Okay, merge to list. Your parameters are list 1, list 2, and you have an output list. Okay, int more items 1 comma more items 2. You need two variables here. Initialize the list 1 and then initialize list 2. Go through the code, okay. Initialize list 2 and you have to initialize one output list, okay. And in more items 1, you store the next item in list. That is initially you will store the first item from list 1 into this more items 1, and next item in list 2 is the first item in list 2 initially, I'm telling, okay. List that you will store it in more items 2, and the you're checking for the condition, okay. Now see to the condition here. It is while more items 1 or more items of 2, means if either of the list has items left, then you have to process this while loop, okay. See, and make note of this. Here you are using or operator, whereas for matching we used and, isn't it? That means in both of the list you should have one item each, then only you are going to process. Here again, now the synchronization process, okay. What you are doing for synchronize? If item 1 is less than item 2, then what you have to do, since this is a merging process, this item 1 from list 1 you have to process it. That means process item, what it will do is it will send the item into the output list. That means item from list item 1 will be sent to the output list, and then you will proceed in that particular list. That is, from the list 1 you will move forward. Okay, same way, else if item 1 double equal to item 2, in this case what you are going to do, you have to process item 1. This means this condition is nothing but, in our example, item 1 if it is Adams and item 2 is Adams, then item 1 is equal to item 2, right? In that case you have to process item 1, that is Adams. You have to one item from the list 1, else you can process item 2 also, no problem. Okay, from the list 2, same one Adams name, you have to process it to the output list, and then what you have to do, you have to move forward. That is, you have to select the next item from list 1, okay, and the next item from list 2 for comparison. Okay, next, else, what the else condition will do here now, that is item 1 is greater than item 2. For example, Carter is greater than Anderson, right? In that case you have to output Anderson into the output list, that is process item 2, and then where you have to advance in the list 2, next item you have to select from the list 2 there. Okay, next item in list 2 to more items, and then finish it. When to finish it? When both the list is completely filled. Okay, when both the list is completely processed. See, for example, if you have 5 names in list 1 and 10 or 15 names in list 2. In case of matching, what happens in the list 1, when you finish these 5 names and further you don't have any names, there you will stop the processing. But in matching, what you will do, after even if you finish this first 5 items in list 1, until you finish these all 15 items in list 2, you have to go on process. That is what it means. Okay, next we will see summary of co-sequential processing model. Some assumptions. What are the assumptions for co-sequential processing model? 2 or more input files are processed in parallel fashions. That is, taking the 2 list together, processing it together, isn't it? That's what we did. We selected the items from list 1, list 2, and then synchronized it and moved forward, isn't it? Okay, each file is sorted. That is, initially you have to sort each of the list, and then you have to do the co-sequential process. Okay, in some cases there must exist a high key value or a low key value. That is, to identify the end of the value, you have to give a high key or a low key value. Okay, and you can check the same condition in your program. Okay, records are processed in a logical sorted order. It uses a order to process. Okay, for each file there is only one current item. That is, at a time you will select one item from the list and then you will process. Records should be manipulated only in internal memory. Essential components. What are the essential components for co-sequential processing of processing? First is initialization, reads from first logical records. That is the sorting, required sorting. And then one main synchronization loop. Synchronization loop is nothing but the conditions you're checking how to select continues as long as relevant records remain. Selection in main synchronization loop, that is what we discussed, the selection either, that is both the items from the list you are comparing, how the comparison is done, okay, in the main loop. Then input files and output files are sequence checked by comparing the previous item value with the new one. That is verifying. If necessary, go for verification. Essential components, that is substitute high values, that is for actual key when end of a file is reached to identify the end of a file. That is we use some special code to deal with this end of a file. Or IO or error detection are to be relegated to supporting method. You can add error detection to support the methods to identify the redundancy or duplicate keys in the list or in the output list. You can add the supporting methods for that also. Okay. A model for implementing co-sequential processes, merging. The matching procedure can easily be modified to handle the merging of two lists. As we saw in the synchronization part, you have to do some changes, isn't it, in the merging process. That is, instead of and, you can go for or in case of merging. And what else? The end of a file, where to stop the processing. And conditions are different for both the matching and merging process. Okay. An important difference between matching and merging is that with the merging, we must read completely through each of the lists. Okay, we have to recognize, however, when one of the two lists has been completely read, that is end of a file, reaching the end of a file, how to identify that. Okay. Next, we will discuss about a complex example for this co-sequential processing. Till now, we discussed about what simple matching and simple merging, isn't it? Now we will move on to a complex problem of a general ledger program. Now, here we have to combine both matching as well as merging, that is the co-sequential operation. You have to include these two to solve this particular general ledger program. This general ledger program to solve the this is a complex program which uses the co-sequential processing, which we will discuss in the next coming session. Okay. Thank you, students.